I'm now standing in the University of Delaware Botanic Garden Hydrangea Garden, where you can find several different species and many different varieties of hydrangeas. So you can see an example behind me, or actually two examples. And in all directions you can find different varieties of hydrangeas. In addition to the hydrangeas, you can also find some local and imported species from other regions of the world. But the local species, one of the most prominent ones, are like this holly tree behind me. I'll go up this way so you can see, where a number of large holly trees have become the focal point of this garden in addition to the hydrangeas. So the hydrangeas have been planted around these existing holly trees in order to produce a nice shady spot where people can relax and just wander and enjoy the different flowers and species during the hot summer months, and also during the fall months, just to enjoy later the foliage and the red berries, the changes in the hydrangea blossoms from season to season. Just a really nice place to come and relax and enjoy the species that have been planted here. In addition to the species that are more of the focal point of this garden, including hydrangeas and hollies, there are also many other species that are present here, both as permanent shrubs and trees, and other plantings that are located here for additional visual interest that lasts about a season or so. Some of the more permanent varieties of plants and species of plants include things like camellia, which is tea, also mahonia. You also have some trees like maples and oaks, so those are very permanent varieties here. They're large trees. And also some things like azaleas, which have very prevalent flowers in the springtime to add visual interest through all different seasons. And finally, speaking of something that adds visual interest in all seasons, is viburnum, which has some really nice foliage in the fall, beautiful bluish purple berries in the fall as well, and then some very prominent whitish flowers in the spring and summer. So lots of different species are present here. Of course, the focus is the hydrangeas. The sort of structure that's built around is these large holly trees, which are used as shade trees. But there are a lot of other things here as well to enjoy, provide shade, and just make this a really nice place to visit. I'll take you through these grassy paths that are a feature of this hydrangea garden. So as a hydrangea is an actual type of plant which goes by a number of different names, but hydrangea is also its scientific name. So here, this is Hydrangea macrophylla, and the variety is listed there as well. And this particular variety blossoms in late summer or fall. So that's why you see some spent blossoms here. But there are a number of different varieties of hydrangeas that grow in this garden that blossom at different times of year. So now as I walk back towards the main part of the Hydrangea Garden, I'll give you a little bit of a background about the design of this garden. So actually, this whole garden, and that includes the plants inside and how the walkways are shaped and how the plots of the garden plants are shaped, this was actually all designed by a graduate student who is studying for his master's here at UD. This was actually before 2014. This area was actually just a mass of disorganized and overgrown plants. And this graduate student by the name of Jason Weil, he put a lot of effort into designing and building this garden so that it really became something beautiful and also something that people could come and enjoy. And so Jason was a graduate student from 2013 to 2015. And he wanted to use the hollies, which were already existing here, as I mentioned before, as shade trees for both the plants on the ground in this ground layer of plantings, and also for the people that came to visit. And so what I think is amazing about this is just really a short while ago, this place was overgrown, and with that effort, someone was able to completely transform this area into a really enjoyable space. One thing that I wanted to mention that's actually near the Hydrangea Garden is something called a Bioretention Area, which we'll learn a little bit more about when I tour the Harker lab up on the main campus. But this area behind me is an area that doesn't look like much. It just looks like a collection of different species of plants, mostly local species of plants that have been intentionally planted here and then just left to thrive and flourish. But behind me you can maybe see the cows that are wandering around and the farmland, the pastures behind me. And this area is actually designed to collect any runoff from that pasture area. So any area that has cow manure, other things on the soil and the grass, is meant to wash away towards this gentle slope behind me and into this area. So even though it looks like just a collection of different plants, you can see that they are lower than where I'm standing right now. So it's actually like a ditch that these plants are planted in, and it's meant to provide a means of collecting and then also filtering any water that would run off from the pasture land. Okay, so we'll review that a little bit more. I'll show you a very sort of showcasey example in the Harker Lab, near the Harker Lab grounds. And this is also a working example where these plants are planted here. This structure is here in order to actually provide that filtration from the pasture. Okay, so bioretention area, remember that.